Hi, hello, YouTube. I'm just going to get right into things and give you the top 10 moves that I think are the best in Terra Raid battles. Usually a YouTube takes like 3 minutes to get started. We're just going to get started right away. And I'm going to give you the top 10 that I think these moves are just really, really great in raid battles. And if they can be on your Pokemon, they probably should be on your Pokemon. And I'll try to explain why. And hopefully that helps you maybe decide what moves should or should not be on your Pokemon when you're building things for Terra Raid battles. And ultimately, I came down to this list as we were building things for Greninja. Really, when I was building for Greninja, based off Cinderace and Charizard, I really kind of narrowed down what moves I always kind of want, or what Pokemon I want because of those moves. So number 10 is going to be Clear Smog. So if you don't know what Clear Smog does, it is a poison type move that does actual damage, and it removes all of the target's effects. Now, what's great about Clear Smog is, I'm going to use Cinderace for an example. Cinderace would bulk up on turn 1 of the raid, and by bulking up, it would increase its defense by 1 stat and would increase its attack by 1 stat. Clear Smog would remove all of that. And because it's considered an attack and not a status, it would work through the raid shield. So again, in the same example of Cinderace, Cinderace would clear all of its negative stats. It would then put up its raid shield, clear all of its negative stats, and then it would like bulk up once or twice, or even 3 times I've seen it, and you would be able to Clear Smog to remove those. The only downside to Clear Smog is it also removes what your teammates are doing. So if your teammates are using something like Chilling Water or Acid Spray to decrease your raid boss's attack, Clear Smog removes that. That's why Clear Smog comes in at number 10 and not any higher. And there are not a lot of Pokemon that learn it, but there are some good ones that learn it, like Gastrodon or Gengar or Amoonguss. Number 9 would be Nuzzle. Nuzzle is an electric physical type move. Doesn't do a lot of damage. It has 20 base power of damage. It will paralyze the raid boss. And while status conditions like burn, paralysis, sleep, the raid boss can clear relatively quickly, it's still able to buy you a turn or two. When a raid boss is paralyzed, or I guess when anyone is paralyzed, there's a 25% chance that they don't move at all. So a 1 in 4 chance that their turn is wasted. That buys you another turn of either surviving, powering up yourself, all of that stuff. But also it's going to decrease the raid boss's speed. Now, I'm not 100% sure how much speed matters in raids because the frame rate, at least of this recording, is so bad. So even if the frame rate was good, who knows if how much that would affect turn order. But more importantly, because Nuzzle does damage, because it's considered an attack, it does work through the raid shield. So in the worst case situation, you bring maybe the wrong Pokemon and you can't really do a lot of damage. At least paralyzing the Pokemon, whether it has a shield or not shield, it's still going to help everyone out on the team. And unlike a move like Thunder Wave, Nuzzle works through the raid shield. Thunder Wave would not. The status type moves like Taunt, like Screech, like Thunder Wave, like Will-O-Wisp, they do not work when the shield is up. And there are quite a few Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet that can learn this. The Toxtricity line, the Pikachu line, Dedenne, Hatterene. Not a lot of Pokemon can learn this. That's why it's number 9 on the list. But Nuzzle, still, if you're using any of these Pokemon for raids, consider Nuzzle. Number 8 would be Recover. There's other moves I guess we could put under this umbrella, like Roost or Slack Off. I'm just going to pick Recover for an example. It is a status type move, and it heals you. That's what it does. I think everyone knows what Recover does. I don't think I have to explain that. Not dying in a raid is incredibly important. I've also seen situations where people, the primary healer of the raid is out of heal cheers, or maybe just your teammates. Maybe you're playing with randoms and they're not healing you. Recover is great. It gives you health back, especially if you're buying a turn, especially if your teammates are still setting up for other attacks. Most of the time in raids, you're bringing a specific Pokemon to do a specific attack. So you don't need like 4 attacks a lot of the times. So you usually have room for a status type move. And Recover is a great status type move. You know, if you're bringing your Charizard to a raid, you don't need Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Fire Spin, and Overheat. You just don't. You probably need one of those moves. Maybe a move to increase your damage, maybe a move to decrease their defenses, and then something like Recover would be great. Although Charizard doesn't learn Recover, so that was kind of a bad example. And there are a lot of great Pokemon that can learn Recover. We could also look at Roost. We could look at Slack Off. There are a lot of Pokemon that go under the umbrella of having some form of self-healing. That's why the self-healing Recover stuff is number 8. Number 7 is going to be both Nasty Plot and Swords Dance. They do the same thing, except one is for special attack. That would be Nasty Plot, and then Swords Dance would be for physical attack. I could separate this out, but then this list would be longer than 10, I guess. So I think in Terra Raid battles, being able to increase the damage you can do is incredibly vital. I would argue that if you're going into a Terra Raid battle and the first thing you're doing is hitting an attack, you're probably not playing optimally. Optimal. You're not playing optimal. Maybe that's the right word. So ideally, you would want to either Nasty Plot or Swords Dance before you start attacking, and or decrease their defenses. We'll get to that later. There's a move that is higher up on this list. Because you're going to be doing more damage over time. Until the raid boss clears those stats, you can easily Nasty Plot again. But Nasty Plotting once or twice, or Swords Dancing once or twice, is just going to increase the damage output that you are doing. That is also, side note, attack cheering is really, really great. Let's say you go into a raid, you're still new, you only have 4 attacks. Maybe you're that Charizard person with Inferno, Overheat, Flamethrower, and Fire Spin. Don't know why you need those moves, but maybe you're one of those people. You don't have a way to increase your attack. You should be attack cheering then. I find it very limited situations where you should just be attacking turn 1 with your main damage dealing move without doing something like Nasty Plot or Swords Dance, or Attack Cheer. The great thing about Attack Cheer is not only do you get a +1, Swords Dance and Nasty Plot are +2, but the 3 other people on your team also get a +1 in their respective stat, whether that is attack or special attack. So that comes in at number 7. Number 6, I think a move that is slept on, that is really great, is Electric Terrain, which is a status type move. But what's great is this is the one status type move that goes up even if the raid boss has their shield up. The reason being is because it puts something on the field instead of directly interacting with the boss itself. So not only does Psychic Terrain boost the power of electric type moves, but it will also prevent sleep. This would be really great if you're fighting an Amoonguss and the Amoonguss has Spore. The reason why I really like Electric Terrain is because it prevents sleep when shields are up, that another move like Taunt cannot do. So, for example, if you're fighting Amoonguss at the start of the match, you can taunt it to prevent it from using Spore. But once shields go up and Taunt wears off, you can no longer taunt it until shields are down. That's why Electric Terrain is so great, because it prevents sleep without needing Taunt. And like I said, it does raise the attack of your electric type moves, which is really great. There are quite a few Pokemon that can learn Electric Terrain that are available in Scarlet and Violet. So if you're using one of those Pokemon in raids, probably take advantage of that. Something like Pincurchin can set up Electric Terrain when it comes out. I think maybe one of the best users of Electric Terrain, which is not on this list, is Bellibolt. Not only is Bellibolt slow and take advantage, it can set up Electric Terrain, it gets the boost from Electric Terrain, it gets the boost from its ability, and then it's able to return a pretty decent amount of damage. And here's a raid build that I did for Bellibolt. It's an absolute all-star. It gets a lot of the moves that I recommend here in this video. So if you have one takeaway from this video, build this Bellibolt. It's really great for 5 and 6 star raids. All right, we talked about this move earlier, but my number 5 is Taunt. Taunt is really great and pretty important in raids. You can taunt to prevent the raid boss from bulking up, from Swords Dancing, from putting you to sleep, from using Will-O-Wisp. The only downside and the reason why Taunt isn't higher is because it doesn't work when their shields are up. Now, we just talked about Electric Terrain and how Electric Terrain does work with shields. The only reason Taunt is higher is because it prevents a lot more things. Electric Terrain only prevents sleep. I think Electric Terrain is still good, but Taunt is really vital for the raids that you're struggling with, where a raid boss is going to power itself up, or use some sort of move some sort of status type move that will give you trouble. Also, out of all the moves on the list, there are a lot of Pokemon that can learn Taunt. So again, what I said earlier, most of your raid-ready Pokemon do not need 4 attacks. Maybe they need the one main attack that they're hitting for whatever weakness. They might need a secondary attack. But you would have room to fit these kind of moves onto your team, and they're pretty useful going forward. My number 4 best move to bring to raids is Helping Hand. So what Helping Hand does is it's a move that boosts your teammates' move by 50%. So if you are a support Pokemon, or you're just a Pokemon that doesn't do a lot of damage, I guess you could be a support Pokemon that doesn't do a lot of damage. You probably want to put, for one of your 4 moves, Helping Hand. Because if there is a Pokemon that doesn't do any support but does major damage, who cares if you can do damage if you can help that Pokemon do even more damage? Do you want to, tickle the raid boss, or do you want to give your teammates a huge boost so they can decimate the raid boss? I mean, I guess you could tickle it too, but Helping Hand is really great. A lot of Pokemon can learn this move. Helping Hand also stacks. So if one Helping Hand is used on your teammate, that's a 50% boost. If 2 Helping Hands are used on your teammate, that's a 125% boost. And if 3 Helping Hands are used on your teammate, that is a 237.5% boost. It does stack. That's great. Helping Hand also stacks with the attack cheer. So this is how you can really get close to like one-shotting bosses, if that's what you like, or Terra Raid bosses, if that's what you like to do. Helping Hand is pretty vital towards that. And the great thing about Helping Hand is you don't have to like plan ahead of time, right? Helping Hand just boosts the next attack by 50%. So if you have a teammate in a raid who's just attacking, might as well Helping Hand them so they can get more damage. Or Helping Hand the recent Pokemon that has just terrestrialized, because they're terrestrializing probably to do more damage. You'll be able to Helping Hand them to do even more damage. And just like Taunt, a lot of Pokemon can learn Helping Hand. So it's really, really great. I guess the only reason I would maybe not suggest Helping Hand for one of your Pokemon is because you're a primary damage dealer. So in this case, you would maybe be something that is using Nasty Plot and Swords Dance. You're boosting yourself up and then doing major damage. You wouldn't really have time to Helping Hand somebody else. But if you're a support Pokemon, Helping Hand, perfect move to have on your raid team. Number 3. Best move, it's actually another combination, is Chilling Water / Mystic Fire. There's actually a couple other moves we can put in this category, like Snarl or Struggle Bug. They all ultimately do the same thing. They do damage, and they either lower the attack or the special attack. In the case of Chilling Water, that is physical attack. In the case of Mystical Fire. In the case of Mystical Fire, that is special attack. So physical attack for Chilling Water, special attack for Mystical Fire. Snarl is also special attack. I believe Struggle Bug is a special attack. And then you could do, I believe, Trop Kick, Lunge, and I think Breaking Swipe are also physical attack. The great thing about these moves is, like I said, there's a pattern here. These moves benefit everyone on a raid team. Even if you bring the wrong Pokemon, even if your Pokemon's not hard hitting, if you're lowering the attack of, let's use Cinderace, for example, because that was just the most recent raid. If you are lowering the physical attack of Cinderace every turn, Cinderace is doing less damage. Therefore, your team is surviving. Therefore, your team can finish setting up, can safely heal, can do what they want to do without worrying about getting knocked out. And if they're not getting knocked out, the timer's not going down. So in the case with Cinderace, you couldn't taunt it because the shield would go up. He would clear his stats. He would put up his shield. He would bulk up twice behind the shield, and you would have no way to stop that bulk up. When you could Chilling Water to decrease the attack back down to 0, and then not worry about that damage increase that he was doing. So I think Chilling Water, a lot of Pokemon can learn Chilling Water. I think it's a great move to have on. This is one of the moves where you wouldn't want to have 2 moves, right? You wouldn't want to have your strong water type move or your strong just hitting move, but then you would want to have your Chilling Water to prevent the boss from steamrolling and getting too powerful and then getting those knockouts. And even though it's a water type move, There are a lot of non-water type Pokemon that can learn this move. Oh, I think another version of this is Spirit Break, which does a very similar thing. So ultimately, there's a whole list of these moves that lower the opponent's attack or special attack, and that works through the shield because, again, it's considered an attack, not a status. My number 2 is Light Screen and Reflect. Again, I guess I could have separated these out, but these moves are so great for raids, and they last 5 turns. They cannot be cleared by the raid boss. You can still Nasty Plot, you can still Swords Dance, you can still Defense Cheer. That all works when these moves are up. And like, I guess, yeah, to repeat myself, they cannot be cleared by the raid boss. Now, if the boss uses Brick Break or Psychic Fangs, they can break the shields and get rid of them. But the whole, like, your stats have been cleared, while your Nasty Plots could be cleared or your Iron Defenses can be cleared, your Reflect cannot be, which is fantastic. Lasts for 5 turns. You can use a held item like Light Clay to make that last 8 turns. In my experience, there's not a lot of raids that go over 8 turns. If it does go over 8 turns, something is probably terribly wrong. I have seen it, though, where the raid goes for 6 turns and things fall apart on turn 6 because people forget that the light screen and the reflect are gone. If you don't know what these do, they decrease the damage coming into you. Light screen would be for special damage. Reflect would be for physical. I have seen that people maybe don't understand these fully. I've been in Cinderace raids where my random teammate put up a Reflect. I'm like, wow, that's great. And then they put up a light screen, which is, Cinderace doesn't have any special attacks. So light screen isn't doing much. Reflect is, though. So that was nice. There are a bunch of Pokemon that learn these. So if you're a support Pokemon and you can learn this, absolute must for raids. For light screen, we have quite a few Pokemon that just able to learn these. If you have a Pokemon like Klefki or Grimmsnarl, I'm going to use those two for example. They both get access to Prankster, which means that they, speed aside, although we talked about how speed is really weird because the game is really laggy, they get to go first and be able to put those up. Although that's kind of weird in like a Charizard, Cinderace, Greninja situation, since those bosses always go first no matter what and usually do 2 things before they go. But a ton of Pokemon here can learn Light Screen. That is to protect you from special attacks. And then a ton of Pokemon here can learn Reflect. A lot of Pokemon can learn both, like Grimmsnarl and Klefki can learn both. Usually if a Pokemon can learn one, they can learn the other. Very rare for them not to learn both. Reflect is to prevent you from physical attacking Pokemon. Light Screen is for special. Hey, and if you're watching this on YouTube right now, if you haven't, feel free to subscribe. We're almost to 100,000 on YouTube. I think as of this recording, we're at like 77,000. So it'd be really great to hit that. I've been trying to make as much Pokemon content specifically around Terra raids and co-op experiences because I think it's really great. And I love doing co-op with the community and other people and helping them get through things that are a little bit more difficult for them. Not everyone is good at Pokemon and they struggle with the competitiveness or the raid building or just figuring out which Pokemon are great. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. That would be really great. I'd like it. We'd get to 100,000. I don't know what happens there. YouTube is a thing. Okay, my number 1 move, the best move I think for raids is hands down Acid Spray. Acid Spray will lower the special defense of the raid boss by 2. That means 3 Acid Sprays will bring it down to -6, which is the lowest your stats can go, which means your Pokemon can do the most damage. There is no physical equivalent to Acid Spray. The closest maybe is Gravapple, which only one Pokemon can learn. That's Flapple. And Gravapple lowers the defense by -1. Acid Spray is -2. Now, not only is Acid Spray an attack, it works through the raid shield. This is incredibly important. And because it's an attack, you get your terrestrialization quicker. Now, what I mean by that, and why this is it's easily number 1, is because when you use a move like Nasty Plot, or you use a move like Iron Defense, or you use a move like Swords Dance, or you use a move like Screech or Fake Tears, those are status type moves. They do not count for you to terrasilize. In a raid battle against a boss with your team, when you attack 3 times, you will then have the ability to hit the terrasilize button and to terrasilize to do more damage. When you're using things like Swords Dance or Iron Defense or Nasty Plot, those don't count. Acid Spray does, because it's considered an attack. So not only can you do 3 acid sprays, bring the boss down to -6, which means you're about to do an insane amount of damage. When you go for your actual next attack, you'll be able to hit that terrasilize button, which again, in a situation where maybe you're a Slowbro and you Nasty Plot 3 times, you can attack on your 4th time, right? Well, you can attack at any time, but you still have to attack 3 more times with an actual attack to be able to hit that terrasilize button. It works through raid shields. I think I said that. So even when the boss puts up their shields and they're a lot harder to take down, you cannot screech, you cannot fake tears, you cannot metal sound because the shield is up. Acid Spray works through that. So Acid Spray is getting you your terrasilization faster. It's working before and after the raid shields, and it's doing a -2, not a -1. So I guess another situation would be like, you can Nasty Plot to increase your special attack by 2, right? That doesn't affect your 3 teammates, but you can get the equivalent amount of damage by decreasing them by -2. So you being +2 and them being 0 is the same amount of damage. Them being -2 and you being 0 is the same amount of damage, except them being -2 applies to you and the 3 people around you, which means everyone is doing more damage. That's why I put Acid Spray over Nasty Plot or Swords Dance. Like I said, there is no physical equivalent to this. So a lot of my raid builds will lean into special Pokemon because they can take advantage of this move. It so happens that a lot of bulky Pokemon learn this move, like Toxapex or Bellybolt. Or Clodsire. So the Pokemon using Acid Spray usually has no problem surviving to set up to help other heavy hitters do the heavy hitting. So we are a little bit limited, but we have Skuntank, Goodra, Toxtricity, Flapple, Quagsire, Quillfish. As the old Pokemon, new Pokemon off the top of my head, I know Bellybolt. Even though Toxapex is not on here, I believe Toxapex got access to it in Generation 9. So this isn't showing all the new Pokemon. But ultimately, if a Pokemon can learn Acid Spray, it moves really high up on my list of Pokemon I want to bring to a raid. And I want the Pokemon standing next to me to be special attackers. It is just such a great, reliable, consistent way to win raids. Even if you know you can't one-shot it, it's just a consistent way to do an incredible amount of damage when the raid shield is up and get through that raid shield faster. So those are my top 10 moves. If you have any questions, if I forgot anything, feel free to comment below. If there's a move that I forgot that you like, feel free. Honorable mention, if there was like an 11th spot, I would say Skill Swap is maybe my 11th move because you would be able to skill swap off Defiant. That would be difficult to deal with in raids, or Mirror Armor, I think, is another one that you would want to skill swap off of. So that would be my maybe number 11. But anyways, those are my top 10 moves for Terra Raid boss battles.